Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to episode 22 of the Everything Meta podcast. Today we have, as usual, we have Joey. We're happy to see Joey. I don't know if you recognize Joey. Lee, you look so young today. It's Joey's little brother. All right, so Joey.
That's a good one, Ken. That's a good one.
Today I want to talk about an article that I read um, about the kind of five unsolved problems of crypto. And the reason why I think it's important, obviously, uh, we're here every week talking about all the benefits of DeSci and DeFi and everything in between, promoting projects, etc. But for balance, just to have a conversation, maybe to address some of the things that are being said about maybe the disadvantages and kind of weigh in on those and talk about whether if you perceive them as disadvantages or no, and maybe what the potential solutions are. Sound good?
Cool.
Cool. So this is an article called The Five Unsolved Problems of Crypto According to Dragonfly's, I want to say, Haseeb Qureshi. And please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the name. I do believe that is Haseeb Qureshi. So moving forward. First one is privacy. Privacy, when you think of privacy, everything you do in DeFi is viewable. We've gotten used to that in crypto, but it's not the way of the future. There will be some trade off that we can make that is going to be similar to the kind of privacy we expect in the real world. So his point is that, you know, the benefits of the blockchain is that, things are public and verifiable. That's what makes DeFi. But you, in exchange, you lose your privacy. Like, no one banks that way, for instance. What do you say to that, Joey?
Oh, you mean privacy from? I guess if he's talking about privacy between individuals, yeah, I suppose if somebody knows your wallet address, right? On the central exchanges, obviously, like many of them are KYC, so they know who you are,
Right.
which in some ways is a good thing. It some ways it's a good thing, right? Because they're that way, like, crime or fraud or something can be tracked, back to the off ramp, and some people are able to recover, some of their lost funds or whatnot based on that KYC. But I don't know. I mean, obviously it'll evolve here going into the future, and I don't think it's that bad. Just don't tell people what your wallet address is, have some anonymity, right? Like, and you're probably okay. And then obviously, nobody else can see what you're doing on exchanges. So if you're, buying and selling whatever on your exchange, you're probably okay. I will say that, not your keys, not your crypto. If you're on the central exchange and it's a custodial type wallet, you're buying like a fake token.
Right.
So a lot of the benefits of using, a specific token, if it has a utility, if it's a puzzle piece inside of another smart contract, you won't be able to use it, right? So
So on a related note, because I use both, and as you know, I recently had some issue with sending some tokens to a centralized wallet when I didn't want to.
right.
Some of the benefits, if you will, specifically for people who are newer or less trusting or maybe older in some ways, and they're like, hey, I want to go with something where I can at least call customer service. Where's customer service at a time like this? What do you say? Because some of these people offer, for instance, some type of guarantees, like, for instance, crypto.com might say, or Coinbase might say, we'll help you track up to this amount, or you can have insurance on your wallet up to this amount, and that's not available in other places. So I mean, on the one hand, yes, not your keys, not your crypto, but this other side of that, I guess, is not my crypto, not fully my problem if someone robs me. Like,
Well,
right? So,
so it's as long as it's a good company,
mm,
there's some of these exchanges that are doing weird things, right? Not above board things that they're getting in trouble for, and then also
for sure.
some are not super well capitalized, and are getting in trouble financially as well,
Mm,
right? So I saw recently FTX, even, one of the what I believe is maybe one of the most capitalized, well capitalized exchanges, central exchanges, had some language saying that they use FDIC insured banks where they're holding funds.
mm,
And I guess it could have been read like the way that it was worded, made consumers feel like their money was FDIC insured when it's not, right?
I see.
Yeah, so you're not immune. I mean, we saw even some protocols recently, like nobody is immune to. I mean, as of yet, I think as long as it's a good company, then you're probably okay. But it's not like the government is backing something. There's
Right.
not a ton
Yeah.
of consumer protection, right? There's some,
Mm,
but there's not a ton, and so like that's where appealing to consumers and retail traders, like that's not necessarily like the essence of what blockchain is, right? Like it's not just selling a product to people all over the world, it's something different. And everybody's gonna have a different opinion on what it is, obviously, right? So
yeah. 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 Fair enough. So, with regard to privacy, do you think that do you ever feel? I mean, and maybe you started in crypto in the early period. Did you tell me it was 11? When did you get into crypto?
no, 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 no. I dabbled in and out maybe around 16, 2015, 2016, and then
Mm,
yeah,
okay,
so just in and
but
out.
still, yeah, still a considerable period, and through a lot of the development that is kind of commonplace to us now, you watched it develop, right? Like, for instance, ETH wasn't what it was in 2016.
Yeah,
ETH
well, I
is was
mean,
not then what it was.
well, 2016. Back then, at least like 2017, it was like anybody that was coming out with a new chain or a new
Mm,
swap or whatever it was got a ton of attention because they were essentially first movers, and they were able to appeal to the masses and essentially become the standard, like pancake swap, right?
mhm,
Like
mhm.
BNB was like $1, or something. It was very cheap.
Yeah.
um XRP was a cent.
Mhm,
uh a lot of these things, and yeah, yeah,
yeah.
there wasn't like a ton of meme tokens, like there kind of, but not really. It was mainly utility projects, and if they were good, and people, they could convince other people that it had a use case, like this blockchain is going to supply, is going to be used for supply chain tech. And it's like, oh, it has a use case. It's going to be, all supply chain items around the world are going to be on the ledger, and that's how they're going to be able to track them
Mm,
around the world. It's like, this is great. Then certain financial instruments as well. People would believe like, oh, like this could be the currency, in Japan, right? Like
mhm,
this could be right. So now a lot of the stuff that you see launched, it's like people are pretty far past that at this point, and
mm.
so it's difficult to stand out in a big crowd, right? Where there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, there's things launching, hundreds of things launching every day.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I gotta let my dog in. He's just
Sure.
whining and
Yeah,
whining. Yeah, I'll
no
be right
problem.
back.
And there's Joey's dog, ladies and gentlemen. Uh-oh.
All right, I'm back. Sorry
Cool.
about that.
No
He
problem.
just he's like right at the window. I'm like, God, dude. Now he's sitting behind me. So
That's where it's supposed to be. Man's best
yeah.
friend. So the reason why I asked you the question though about or to even bring up the time that you've spent in crypto is, do you feel a difference? So for me, as someone who maybe started banking in the late '90s, see, I guess when I opened my first account, I was probably '97. So like when the hyper kind of privacy that goes into the traditional banking, for instance, is lost, I feel the absence of it in ways that maybe some won't. So I'm wondering for you, when you look at crypto, like, is there any part of it that makes you a little iffy, creepy, crawly? Like, hey, there's too much of my information is exposed. Like, on the one hand, there's the anonymity of a wallet is a wallet, but however, once you understand where that wallet is, there's nothing now that's private about it. If you understand what I'm trying to say, do you feel that? Do you experience that, or is it just me?
Um. Yeah. I mean, I think there's like a lot of eyes. There's some people out there that have a lot of eyes on their wallets, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Some people don't care, right? It like if somebody's gonna make a massive sell. Is that what you're talking about? Like people watching your buys and sells and where you're
yeah,
sending.
yeah. I mean, right. Like, just your financial comings and goings. Like, depending on how much you use and what for you use your wallet. Like, the general public doesn't know what's in my checking account or the ledger or where I shop or what I'm buying and selling or whatever the case is, unless
Hmm.
of course I've been hacked. But in general, if you know my wallet, I mean, just as simple as being able to trace my um, NFT back to my wallet. Now okay, well that's his board Cliff, so this is his wallet, this is whatever. Like, and now everything I do in and out of that wallet is trackable, and it's generally public. I mean, maybe it's not a concern for many or most, but I'm just raising the question: do you, like even you said, buys and sells in the ways that we follow, certain wallets, and maybe even look to
Yeah.
follow them in terms of the market? Yeah.
If somebody doesn't want people to know what their wallet is, they'll have it so people don't know what their wallet is, right?
Mm,
Um, Obviously, some people could glance over it, um, and if people want people to know what their wallet is, they'll let people know. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, no biggie. You can make more wallets, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah, you can make more wallets. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think it's that big of an issue, to be honest. I think that I don't think it's a big issue, right? If you have if your wallet, if people know what your wallet is and you're not doing anything weird, then I think it's fine. And then obviously, if even if you aren't doing anything weird, but you just want to be a bit anonymous, that's fine too. Like there's plenty of large, that's the thing, right? When you get down to these small liquidity pools, right? There's not that many people in them. Sometimes there's 100, then there's 200, and maybe out of that 100, like there might be one guy that makes up 20 of those holders.
Mm-hmm.
Um, unfortunately,
Yeah.
unfortunately, yeah. And so you see the same people in and out of a bunch of the really small projects, right? When you see some larger sort of projects launched with larger liquidity pools, like all of a sudden you start seeing like 40 ETH buys, 100 ETH buys, 30 ETH buys. And you're like, oh, where do these people come from? You might click on their wallets and you'll see thousands of ETH getting sent around, right? In their personal financial system or whatever. And so you don't really see those people like moving around too much, or at least in a public way, right? You don't see many of them interacting with the every single launch that's coming out. So I think that you can, like, so, bigger projects, larger liquidity pools. I think that you can stay relatively, anonymous if you wanted to. Obviously, depending on how you off ramp the money, then you'll have to, figure that out for yourself, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people send to an exchange and just send to their bank and pay taxes, right? And then there's all sorts of people out there. So,
Yeah. There's
yeah.
other methods and other means.
Yeah.
So in summation, with regard just to the privacy aspect, not a problem. Your opinion says that there is no privacy issue in DeFi, that the foreseeable future won't have to resolve a privacy issue as it pertains to DeFi.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of options, right? If you want your DeFi experience to be, stuck in a small world with a small perspective, then yeah, I think that everybody will know what your wallet address is and whatnot. But there's so many different chains. There's so many different chains. There's so many different products. There's so many different protocols and use cases, chains made specifically for different use cases. You can get into all sorts of different stuff if you wanted to.
You walked right into perfectly, and I know you haven't. I certainly didn't tell you the order of the questions, but that is the point of number two. So I'm going to move forward to that point. So just for the record, point one, no privacy problem. Let's talk about two. Two is interoperability, and so I'm going to read the quote. Where is it? All right, right now you're extremely aware of what chain you're on. You know if you're on Solana or Avalanche or Ethereum. At some point in the future, almost without a doubt, you'll have digital assets you interact with applications, and that'll be your relationship with the blockchain. Um, it says that right now you don't interact with this service or that service. You don't interact with Cloudflare. You certainly don't care about transmission control protocols or internet protocols. And so I guess this point is because you're more uh, tied to an app and not kind of the underpinnings of how it works. Um, that that we need to make sure that different blockchains are working with each other, or that there's some way to move between blockchains that where the user experience is kind of more seamless and you're less aware of like maybe another. The way I read it when I first read it was kind of like when I'm on my cell phone, I don't really care what network I'm tapped into if my phone works. It doesn't really matter to me, right?
Mm.
I'm on the phone, the call's going through. Doesn't really matter if my phone is at that moment using AT&T, Verizon, or whatever, Sprint, whoever, whichever network. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about that aspect of? Is that a challenge? Is the way you see it? This kind of awareness of the separation, the kind of segmentation, the siloing of the different blockchains um, and what is possible on each chain and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's a problem. Yeah. Set the segmentation of crypto. I think it's extremely segmented, and what you get is more dilution. And like what you're saying, you don't care what network you're on as long as you can make the call. Well, the internet, right, at one point was multiple different internets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So but eventually they created some type of standard, right? So no matter where you are in the world, if you go to that same page, you're going to the same internet. Everybody's on
Right.
the same internet. And yeah, I it would be nice if people would just choose something that could be the standard, and create a consortium. Obviously retail gambling, right? is going to be all over the place. Specific chains, different, companies or utilities might use those chains for different things, or might invest into them, right, for the future. Things like HBAR, hash graph, or Cosmos, or different interoperable chains or fast chains. Um, there's blockchains out there that are far more scalable than ETH, but I think that EVM is sort of the standard, right? Like, is it easy to work on, right? Are these new
Mhm.
chains, do they use a language that's easy and enjoyable to work on, right? So where do people want to work? Um, so I think that will determine what the standard becomes, and you see all sorts of chains that are EVM compatible, um, like Binance, right? Like BSC, or Phantom, or AVAX, or the new Doge chain, right? So it makes it easy for everybody. However, it dilutes the liquidity on each different chain. You keep
Mm.
splitting and splitting and splitting. That, I guess it doesn't really matter, because even if it was all on ETH, people would just keep launching different projects, and they would they would go from project to project anyway.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, a lot of what we focus on is, this might sound wild, and like, we're trying to contribute to ETH, right? Like, as a launch pad or an incubator, the things that we're trying to incubate, right, or contribute to, are meant to improve, or help, help ETH, or make it more interesting, make ETH more interesting, right? Like, seeing, like, experimental, seeing what you can do. Um,
Mhm.
so, like, we have a security project, right? So, trying to contribute to ETH, and security, and wallet technology, right?
Right.
Um, then we have gaming, seeing what we can do with smart contracts integrated into games, especially as a mobile app, right? In the App Store. I think Farouk's build is one of the very first uh, ever. It might be the first ever. Well, I know that for sure it's the first ever build like that Apple has seen, and so there was, like, a lot of questions and whatnot that Apple had in order to get through that process. Anyway, so, like, that's the kind of stuff that we try to focus on. Even like this new project Zero, that we funded, right? Um, again, it's trying to help ETH. Unfortunately, like, what everybody seems to really like nowadays is whether there was some transaction like 1,000 days ago. And don't get me wrong, like, although I think it's a little bit strange, and it doesn't really help, uh, anything. I think it's very interesting. I love a good treasure hunt. I
Yeah.
love trying to find clues and stuff. So I get it, how it piques people's curiosity.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's helping. It's probably not helping. It's helping a few people that get in early, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just again, so for my own understanding, I was thinking back to like the early days, the pre-Microsoft days, which maybe before you might not remember those such days,
So
but pre like Windows. Um, I'm talking about maybe pre Windows 95, man, where you wanted to get on a computer, like it was just you had to be like a genius, or at least spend extensive amount of time going to this place and that place. Like I just want to create a document. Like how does that work out? And then at some point, someone packages it all up for you and says, "Dude, don't worry about it. Just turn the computer on. The rest will handle itself."
yeah.
I feel about kind of in that sense, like is there the possibility of having some kind of overarching uh, can you get a Microsoft of crypto? Like, do you see a situation where someone's going to say, hey, man, this thing now will manage every blockchain and everything that you've ever wanted to do. Don't worry about it. We figured it out so that you don't have to do it. Like it all kind of works on your behalf without you having to think about it.
I don't think so, because even for Microsoft, right, there's multiple operating systems, and for browsers, there's multiple browsers, right?
Mm,
Like right now, I have 3 different browsers open. They all do different things, you know.
yeah.
So it's yeah, and on the 3 different browsers, it's probably 100 different tabs, you know. So
Yeah.
we're all doing different things. I don't necessarily think that there would be just one. You
Yeah.
know, ETH is not super scalable, right? It's slow, it's expensive, it gets congested. You know, it's but it should be the standard.
Mm,
You know, I
mm.
think that EVM compatible should be the standard, unless we get to a, you know, I mean, and who knows, dude? Like, you know, the year could be 2050. We could be flying around in space, you know, and blockchain is just,
Yeah.
you know, like I think they say Hashgraph is like the next, you know, evolution of blockchain, faster. Like the Hashgraph technology is faster and
I
has
see.
finality, or you know, something,
Mm.
I don't know, buzzword, right?
You need them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's marketing 101. All right. So just to kind of put a bow on this one, we're 1-1. You said we don't have a privacy problem, but we do have an interoperability problem. So we agree. You agree with the author in this instance that that is an aspect that we will need to improve in order to kind of make crypto more mainstream going forward. Or
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
cool.
I was helping somebody. There's this guy that owns this restaurant close by, and he was asking me to help him with his crypto. I'm like, you know, copy this address, paste it in here, this and that. You know, it's hard. It's hard. I think Coinbase kind of does a good job, right? Because you can send to somebody's email, right, and
Yeah,
nobody can see what's going on, and you know that's probably not so bad.
yeah. And again, also crypto.com. I mean, there's things that you have like with phone numbers and other users specifically on crypto.com that you can do. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the future has to bring, but as I think about them and this kind of CRO, this emergent token that's kind of in that stage of 11, 12, 15 cents, and just watching them build out Kronos and just hoping that they figure out something that we didn't know,
Mm.
because their transactions, I think they have the ability to transact much more quickly. I just don't know who all is on Kronos at the moment. So, you know,
And
shout
I'll
out
tell
to
you
those.
what, Binance BSC pretty good, EVM
Oh, for sure.
compatible.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it
So
God,
we're on
the
to.
more, yeah, I keep my respect for CZ continues to grow all the time.
Yeah. Hey, look, how could you not respect CZ? Yeah, that's where I am. Um,
My
Binance. I
bad.
mean,
I threw you off
it's
there.
you did, but I'm just Binance, man. I mean, just uh, just Binance US. Let's forget like the bigger Binance umbrella. I just look and see like some of the things that are happening there. It's very impressive for me when I go back and look at the history. I see the same thing about VB. I think there are a lot of the minds in this space. Just very impressive to me. Impressive young innovation, young minds, young innovators, just doing things that I think are incredible. But and then to the highest level, to your point, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you did throw me off, but no worries. So the second point, the third point is where were we? Oh, yeah, scalability. Here we go. So, and I think you kind of walked into this one too. I think you're just following your logic path. Scalability: the fastest blockchains do fewer than like 1,000 transactions per second each. You can argue about the margin here, but the bottom line is that none of them do that much throughput today. So he goes on to say, for us to really get to world scale, all blockchain needs to be much faster, much more scalable, and have much higher throughput. Now, you were just talking about Binance, but and kind of the speed there. But do you find this to be a valid issue as it pertains to again the future of crypto? Future of crypto.
Yeah, I mean, I think people focus on transaction speed a little bit too much. Just because it's super fast doesn't mean that it's going to be like the best thing ever, right? So I think that it's transactions per second and stuff like that are a bit of a a thing that people can sell, say that they're better. Maybe they're better. I don't really know. I think that a blockchain that's easy to work on, I think, is the most scalable. If all other things considered line up with speed, so I think that Binance or some of these other chains are probably fine.
Well, okay, so as I think about mass adoption and kind of the future of crypto, if you will, and we're talking about my ability to go to Walmart and check out, right? And I want to use my Cliff
Mhm.
to check out, or even ETH, like whatever, wherever we are with that. If the transaction times, if I need like 19 minutes to check out, like that's not going to work out.
Well, that's just Bitcoin, right? That's the only one. Everything else is faster than that. ETH is like
Yeah.
a little bit too slow with it. It's not even too slow, honestly. You can stand there for 15 seconds and pay somebody, right?
15 depends on what. If we're talking ETH, 15 seconds is possible, but I mean, but think about this. I guess I don't know I don't know how to account for it, because what we're also saying is it can be slower than that currently, and we haven't reached mass adoption. So what then happens if more people are trying?
That's
I'm
just
not
more
sure.
expensive. Gas is just more expensive. Maybe it'll take an extra block or something to go through, but it's ETH's problem is the their speed, even though that's not really that much of an issue, dude. Like the
Mm,
speed is not that much of an issue, right?
mm.
Like it is, but it isn't, right? So the other chains that go much faster have a leg up. It's the transaction cost, right? Is too much. However, people are able to build layer twos like Arbitrum and stuff that use ETH as the gas fee, and are like super super fast. So you don't need like where the other layer two projects I think like went into a weird direction is they made their own token, right?
Right.
Yeah, like Matic, and you got all this AVAX, right? Whereas Arbitrum is like an actual project where it's a layer two and it uses ETH, right? That's pretty good. You don't have to change your underlying currency to power the transaction. That's pretty
Mm,
cool. Um,
mm.
Man, the more recently I've never been more bearish on the ETH retail space. Like it is so bad right now, dude. It is so bad right now.
Say
It's
more.
yeah, it's super bad.
I
Yeah,
mean, why bearish now? Why? What are you seeing?
oh, just gambling, and you know, you have people just writing interesting stories on
Mm,
Medium. There's some cool projects out there, and even if they're being criticized for some things, like at least they're trying to innovate. like I saw this Doge chain token launched last night, right? They're getting a lot of criticism, because they have like a team wallet that is selling in order to raise money for exchange listings and stuff like that. But I mean, it is what it is. Like it's not that big of a deal, but at least they're trying
Mhm.
to innovate, whether it contributes to a standard or not, and actually helps the space, that is arguable. But I think it's, at least they're trying to do something, besides just write like an article and have a bunch of people like think that something's only going to go up, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So scalability, ultimately problematic. You agree with the assessment?
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
depends. Depends. Yeah. I think that there's chains out there that are scalable. I think it's fine. ETH is like, I don't know how scalable ETH is. ETH went parabolic, I believe, because you you had NFTs,
Mhm.
right? And everybody, in order to get an NFT on ETH, right, that all the influencers are pushing onto them, or all the celebrities are pushing onto everybody, is you needed ETH. So people had to buy ETH, right?
So you're what I heard you say earlier was though um, the speed isn't the problem. Like when you think of scalability, you don't think it's a matter of transactions per second as much as making sure that the price per transaction creates the scenario under which it makes sense to scale. Is this correct?
Yeah, it needs a little, you know, like yeah, the speed is like secondary, I think. As long as it's sort of fast, 10, 15 seconds, that's cool. Like one block, I think is fine. On ETH, I think is okay. Obviously faster is better, right? So if you had a chain that was much faster, that's totally cool too. If it happened in 1 second, that's super cool, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but the price is the biggest thing, right? The gas price. Like you're not gonna have adoption. You're not gonna have mass adoption of a chain if it costs $20 to send $1, right?
For sure. I mean, I don't disagree with. I don't fully disagree with you. I guess for me, the way I see it is that until you fix the transaction problem, because we're not comparing 1,000 transactions per second against like, or we're not comparing crypto to crypto. In this case, we're comparing that to Visa, Mastercard, American Express. Like when I go to the store, how many transactions can you give me, and how fast can I get out of here? Versus if we implemented crypto for checkout. And so I I don't know the scenario under which someone would say, yeah, get rid of this Visa machine where I can get a response in 3 seconds and walk out, and give me 30 seconds to check out. We'll see what
Y-
happens.
I don't know if blockchain is gonna solve like people being able to pay for things. I think what it is the card companies and people see that there's a lot of value stored in crypto and people want to be able to use it to pay for things, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
making that happen, I think, is more important than having blockchain like solve transaction speed for credit card companies or something, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I think maybe importantly to your point, one of the things I'm saying, and one of the reasons why the two uh, centralized exchanges that I pointed out, I use both crypto.com and coinbase.com, is because they offer these debit cards, right? Where they fix that problem on their own. If I can use my debit card normally, and whatever back end process they have of converting my ETH or my USD to some cash form of payment, like that's a them problem. It's not happening at the point of sale necessarily. It's whatever. So I mean that allows. I think to your point, there's people who are housing funds in crypto retailers want people to be able to use those funds, maybe the goal isn't to figure out how to create faster checkouts that use crypto, but maybe more ways to tie crypto to some card product or some other app or some other way where the processing can be nearly as fast, and the challenges of speed or cost are dealt with, maybe some backroom way. I don't really know, why this is. I don't know the technology behind why this is possible or why it happens more quickly, but I know, I don't experience any lag. Like it's not like trying to buy something on the blockchain when I go to Target. That's not what I'm experiencing. So, whatever that transaction is, I think maybe that's um, where we might get some more scalability when people are able to the extent that people want to use their crypto in face-to-face real world situations.
Yeah, yeah, I think that it's awesome, right? Like being able to use a card. Um, I would do that if I had one. I just need crypto.com.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, if you get one, make sure you put in my name as a referral. We'll both get $25. Life.
Oh, cool.
Let's see. All right. So identity, the issue having online identity that can be relied upon. Let's say I want to offer you credit. Credit is about your identity. It's about who you are, but also about my recourse. I can only offer you credit if I know that I have a path towards getting it back. If I don't know who you are and you run away, I'm underwater, immediately. The point being, to kind of the corollary to the initial point of, privacy, is that there is no profile, if you will, of a person and their kind of credit worthiness, etc., that's happening on the blockchain, that allows for the extension of credit. And that will then be a problem with mass adoption.
People
You
being able to
say?
leverage their crypto.
Well, I mean, so I know that the way that typically happens now is that you're able to, maybe stake or what would you call it, like stake for uh, better terms, your crypto in exchange for a percentage of credit, right? You can leverage, your Bitcoin and then get X amount of ETH in exchange to go do what you want to do and pay it back just on the premise of having that Bitcoin to leverage. But what if you wanted to provide credit for someone who does not have an asset that you're interested in? What do you do if you don't have the collateral? I guess if you can't collateralize your current assets.
There's some protocols out there like the True USD team, True
Never
Coin.
heard of it. Mhm.
Yeah, TRU. They do uncollateralized stuff, but it's generally like their borrowers are people like Alameda and stuff. Like big institutions that
Mhm.
have
Right.
what their decentralized governance protocol would deem like credit worthiness, right? So, or being able to pay it back. Um, Man, I don't know the answer to that one, to be honest. Free money?
Yeah. Yeah. Free. Yeah. I mean, it, credit is part of. I mean, for better or for worse, kind of how we have built our economy. Over time, allowing people to get things they need and pay when they can. And so I guess the argument is, if you're going to build or model a new economy or an economy with different kind of protocols on the existing one, how then do you extend that credit to individuals when there is no public profile?
Oh goodness. I think that it would need some. I don't know the answer to this one, dude. But my opinion, like I would want to see who I'm lending to.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Like why?
so,
Yeah,
I mean, so you agree then that that is a challenge?
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, just lending to somebody you don't know, right? Because you could
Yeah.
be,
Yeah,
yeah, you could be contributing to something bad, right? And you
for
don't want
sure.
to do that.
Yeah. So, so one of the things that make economies strong is not what do I want to say? It's not this process does not support lending and therefore may not be able to grow to the extent of, for instance, the US economy because there's no right now there's no good way to go about lending. So maybe that's a topic for another day. I want to maybe circle back to that on a different day and maybe figure out some solutions to some of these, or maybe not the ultimate definitive solution, but maybe some ideas for how we can get to a better place. If we agree that these things are impeding the mass adoption of crypto, and we're both interested in that space, in that time and place happening, then we need to think about some of the solutions to some of these issues um, that may create the environment that we seek. So I'll move on from the fourth point to go to the fifth and final point, and this is something that I know you'll probably have a lot to say about, and that is UI, user experience, right? The friendly way to transact. We've seen some wallets start to do a better job with the user experience, like Solana. It has great experience. Was it Kepler? Great wallets. We've been able to learn from mistakes, and I think we're going to see more and more innovation. You often talk about the user experience of wallets. We've talked a lot about Neko, for instance, and what it is you hope to accomplish. They also say that MetaMask is not the most user friendly, and I know if I'm not mistaken, you are a proponent of MetaMask, correct?
Oh, I don't know. I use I use MetaMask. I
Yeah.
don't use any of the sleek user interface. You know what I mean? Like I don't use
Yeah.
any of the consumer type geared products, right? So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
So, in other words, to make this process more simple. I mean, I don't know about, again, for me, my first experience. I first started in crypto on what's it? Maybe on Weeble, and
Oh
then
yeah.
moved my way in. And I remember the
Yep.
first time buying, like someone's like, "Yeah, go to all you have to do is get the token address, copy, paste in Uniswap, and go over here and get some Ethereum and stick it over there and do." I was like, "What in the world is happening here, man?" Like, I'm almost not interested anymore. Like,
Yeah.
legitimately, I don't want to do
Getting over that is tough, dude. So
this.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. It like the guy with the restaurant close to me here, the
Mm.
same deal. I'm like, okay, get an FTX, get a MetaMask. I'm like, okay. He's like, okay, I bought $300 of ETH, with my card. Now what do I do? I'm like, you send it to your MetaMask.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then
Like,
maybe you have to wait.
yeah.
Like,
So I'm like, okay, here, I'm gonna come in and get a fish sandwich, and I'll show you what to do. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
So it,
if
it
you want
is
more
it
people to
is
use it.
yeah, it is tough. I think with the Neko, right, because we have an account to on ramp, off ramp, straight onto the wallet. So MetaMask has that as well, right?
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
I'm not sure what kind of size you can do, but I think it's cool having a little piece of hardware that you can on ramp right onto. It's sort of like its own little computer.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it is. It's its own little computer, and you can send money from fiat right into crypto right onto the thing and transact how you please, just like that. I think that's cool. You can manage it, from the web app. So it's kind of, I think that it solves some issues. I have some friends with some wallet projects that are really great projects, and we're trying to figure out how to collaborate for Neko as well, because I think they have some tech, and some sleek user, experience. But it's for people that are like hunting, right? It's not like for managing your treasury, right? It's like you hunt for. Right, so they have like a mobile wallet that, like, as soon as something is listed, it's direct. Um,
Mm,
so you have live new pairs right on your wallet app. So you don't
that's
have to
cool.
be on Dex tools, right? You
Yeah.
can see, and then it swaps direct on contract as well. So it's like it's a router buy. So it's super fast buys, swaps direct. It's great. A lot, BSC people use it. So like there's those sorts of things, but again, that's for like people that are like hardcore, right? I think that, yeah, focusing on, something like Coinbase, FTX, crypto.com, appealing to the masses, making DeFi easy for people, I think is really good. I think that the Neko project specifically, there's like there are tons of people in DeFi that already know what the Neko project is. Are would they? You need new people, right? You need new people,
Yeah.
coming in, be like the guy at the fish store, right? When he's like, "What do I do?" I say, download make an account, make a Neko account, and then you can just on ramp right there, and then just buy it just like that, right? It's pretty
Right.
straightforward. So
Yeah. So, in summation, then you agree that um, having a better or more seamless user experience can, will, should help grow the crypto space.
yeah, yeah, I think user experience, especially for first time crypto users, is can be, especially in the big, early days, is like a make it or break it, right? Like in the early days, it was like only people that are trading, so people that interact with like, a Schwab account or
Mm,
something. You had Webull, right? Which is a pretty solid user experience. But that's for people that are like trading, right? So you have to, how do you get all these people interested in trading things, right? Because that's what everybody's doing. Everybody's like a day trader. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Nobody's
Yeah.
accumulating, um, long term and whatnot, right? So it's, I don't know.
Fair. So, just to recap all five questions, the only space there was privacy, interoperability, we had scalability, identity, and user experience. The only place that you disagreed that was a challenge with the future of crypto was in privacy. That people can manage their own privacy, open new wallets if they need to, not let it be known what they're trading if they don't want to, and otherwise, so 80%, you're 4 or 5. You agree with 4 of the challenges, but not privacy.
I mean, I suppose privacy is an issue, right? Like everybody can somebody can figure out what you're doing if you don't know what you're doing, I suppose, right? And I think, gosh, I, I don't know, man. I don't have too much of an opinion on the privacy aspect, because it's kind of like you
No
can't.
takesy backsies, Joey. You already said that you didn't think it was an issue.
I didn't think I don't think that it's that much of an issue. I think that
Yeah.
you can figure it out, and there's some, like, gosh, overseeing bodies probably, you know if it's something I don't know, dude. Yeah, I'll pass now.
All
Yeah,
right, Joey. Well, I'm gonna wrap, man. And
cool.
do you have any last words?
No, I don't. Thanks, Ken. Try to get
Thank
it done.
you, and thank you guys for listening.